I'd invite everyone to rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You were all emailed a copy of our minutes from June 4th. If you've had a chance to review those, I'd look for a motion to either approve or amend them. So moved. Second. A motion and a second to approve the minutes from June 4th. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nope, not yet. Phyllis, could we have roll call?
Sam Collier.
Here.
Craig Koshaw.
Here.
Pat Dyer.
Here.
Tyler Fulenkamp.
Here.
Wiley Sir.
Here. Thank you. First thing I have on the agenda is just something for everyone to ponder, I guess. I got another letter from Baker, DeVos, Ainsworth, and Razzo, and this is from Scott Ainsworth on behalf of North Adams Community Schools. At the April 9th, 2019 meeting, the Board of Trustees of North Adams Community Schools determined that there's no longer a need for North Adams to retain the Southeast Elementary School property, because North Adams acquired that parcel from the school city of Decatur in the consolidations in the 60s. Indiana Code IC 20-23-6-9G requires that North Adams first offer the property to the city before it would be permitted to seek alternate disposal through gift or sale. There's more to this, but nonetheless, the date of this letter is actually June 13th, and they're giving us 90 days from June 13th to make a decision on whether or not we would be interested in them gifting Southeast Elementary to the city. I'm not asking for any decision tonight. I just wanted to make it aware that we received this letter from the school corporation. Everyone can be putting some thought into it. I'm not sure what we would do with it. It's a great facility, but I'm not sure what we would do with it. So put your thinking caps on. If you have any ideas, Wiley, I just asked Phyllis, I think it was Melissa that asked me maybe, or somebody did, if we don't accept it, do you know, like, would this North Adams then have to keep it up for a couple of years to see if a charter school would want it? Do you know what the ruling would be, most likely?
They would.
Yeah.
Unless there's a there's a month clause in there that can, if they have a purpose or someone wants to buy it, there's a month there that can be, and if no charter school steps forward, then they're free to go ahead and dispose of it. But, right.
And they're required to give a minimum of 90 days to offer to the city, but if the school agreed to extend it for a longer period, they could.
They could do that too.
Right.
Yeah. So we're not really bound to the 90 degrees if they allow it.
If they gave it an extended period.
Correct.
Pardon me, I was asking him, we could ask for an extension on the 90 days.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I'll make this letter a matter of record today. Receive it.
I make a motion to make that a matter of record. Second.
A motion and a second to make this a matter of record. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I spent 9 years of my life in that building.
Okay, we have a couple of event forms. Phyllis, do you have those there? I'll kind of brief through them. The first one is for Downtown Decatur Days, and that's part of Decatur Main Street. Downtown Decatur Days would be July 13th, and it's downtown on 2nd Street and at the plaza. It would run from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Street closings involved would be 2nd Street from Jefferson to Jackson, Madison Street to 3rd Street, and Court Street to 3rd Street. They have already talked to the 3 department heads, got their signatures, and they've also got here a Madison Street Plaza event form that they are requesting for use of the facilities until 4 p.m. And that one there they have not had signed by the department heads, so we would have to get that signed. Other than that, that's all I have about it. I don't know, does anyone know any more about Downtown Decatur Days that wants to speak on behalf, for, against, or anything? Co-person, it's Kerry Vrablick is the person's name on this, and the co-person in charge is Max Miller. And like I said, this is part of the Decatur Main Street. It's a Decatur Main Street event.
It's what used to be called sidewalk sales,
Okay,
basically.
yeah.
But they've renamed it.
Trying to add more events to it,
Mhm.
build upon what they've done.
Before I would ask for a motion to approve this, do any of the three department heads, Public Works, Police, or Fire, have any questions or issues with this? Because we'll need a signature from you guys if we pass this, so. If not, make a motion to approve this. Thank you. A motion and a second to approve the Downtown Decatur Days. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And then the second event is this coming Saturday, June 22nd. There's a lot of things going on this Saturday. There's the Flat 50 Bike Tour. That's what this is. This is being, the person in charge is Derek Vrablick. Co-person in charge is Dave Kirkeberg. And the location of the event is, it says Riverside Center on Jackson, I believe is where it looks like they're starting. Street closings, Jackson from the Chamber parking lot to, see what that says? To
Compost center.
Compost entrance, okay, yeah. And I think that's just a short period of time while they take off, does that sound right? Yeah. So yeah, that's a bike ride. That has been signed off by the three department heads. It's done by the Adams County Bike Club, and it looks like it's good to go. Like I said, that's one of, I know, three things that's going on this Saturday. There's that, there's the Common Grounds 5K run, which begins on First Street, and if everything works out right, I believe the 122nd Fighter Wing is supposed to do a flyover at 9 a.m. And then the other thing is the Decatur, which is on the plaza this weekend. So there's plenty of things to do this weekend in downtown Decatur. I would look for a motion to approve the Flat 50 Bike Tour.
So moved.
Second. A motion and a second for this. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Both events are approved. And the only other thing I have this evening, as far as business, is I emailed all of you a copy of a proposed ordinance having to do with establishing an arts commission. And Cam said he would be glad to make a little presentation, kind of go over this with everyone this evening. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Cam.
Okay, so as you all probably recall, it's been months. This has been months in the making. I apologize for how long it's taken to get to this point, but we talked about the idea of establishing an arts commission with specific roles and responsibilities they would have. That I think that as the art movement has grown in our community, we've been put in positions where we're sometimes making calls on what art we're supporting and how we're funding it, and as bigger public art projects. And when we start talking about this, perhaps a mural on a wall. Okay, well, who determines that? Who makes the call? How we raise funding for it? And that type. So there are a lot of different reasons behind it, but this ordinance here is really me taking from quite a few other communities, but primarily Fort Wayne. And Fort Wayne was actually recently adopted. Theirs is somewhat unique because they're talking about actual public art, but also public art in private spaces, and they even will consult private individuals, like private pieces on private property. So we don't want anything to do with that. But between that and Porter County, there's a couple others, and Tim had shared one actually from a community in New Jersey, a borough in New Jersey. So I took from a lot of those to pull this together, but in essence, there's three things that are established. The commission, it talks about membership, who would be involved in that, who's appointed, But what we're looking at, it would be a 9-person member with 4-year terms. We need to initially try to stagger those terms as well. But so you got the commission, then you have the public art program, right? That's the kind of the bigger piece of this. Roles, responsibilities, what the overall objective is, and then thirdly is a public art fund or non-reverting fund. And we established one of those several years ago for the fire department. But I can think of one instance where this came into play was a piece of sculpture that now sits over there. It was donated by an individual, but it needed to be purchased from the artist. So the individual donated the money to the city for the city to purchase the art. Well, it was kind of a how do we manage that? Well, this is way this could be done. All right, so but again, the commission with the I already kind of spoke to the membership, but if you recall, we had a meeting. It's been several months ago too. We invited some of the key players within the community and the arts community, but what we were looking to do, and this is kind of what Fort Wayne did, was give those organizations that are permanent organizations, that are structured organizations, a seat at the table, right? Whether that be their director or their representative, but they would have one of those seats. Certainly, perhaps a member of the Redevelopment Commission, our Parks Department, to fill that out, that there will be a mayor appointee, a council appointee, and stipulations being that we want these individuals to be citizens of the community or of the city, residents of the city, but also that they have expressed, they have a background or interest in art themselves. But there's also opportunity for additional members to be included by the commission's invitation, specifically 2 representatives that would be appointed by the commission themselves. So, meeting and rules, responsibilities, you can see to include soliciting, distributing of funds, which we'll get to that in a bit, but obviously adopting their own policies and procedures. And this is not unlike any other. The Redevelopment Commission had the same responsibilities. They had to kind of come up with their own bylaws and how they're operating. But the public arts program in itself, I won't go through all these. It's all in front of you. But all the different reasons why we want to do this. And a lot of it does have to do with economic development, the vitality of the community, tourism, culture exchange. But we want to promote what is currently going on in our community, and also really pay tribute to those artists from our community. But the Public Art Fund would be able to receive either be through something that we do as a municipality, if we were to budget money to them. But private grants and donations could go into this fund as well. And then, if, for example, if we were to hold an art show, and there was an admissions fee, or there was a program fee for some of the training that might be going on in our
whatever it's called,
yeah. Then those could have to be parked in here for the benefit of, or if there was another fundraiser that was done, and in some aspect, that money could then be put into this fund. Now, I also said in there, so that's the solicitation of it, but also the distribution of it. So you'll see the use of the funds. Now, this was also following, I can't remember which community it was, but I don't think we want to be incredibly restrictive. We need to leave some flexibility. So by putting in some general guidance, say in general, 40% shall be used on public art programs. And you kind of separate, there's programs and then there's projects, right? Programs could be art advocacy, it could be educational opportunities, that type of thing. A project may be something like a wall, right, or our mural. And then, of course, 20% being left for administration. Now, if the commission got to the point where they wanted to establish something and hire somebody on full-time, that could be a separate. But this particular fund, no more than 20% used for operating administration expenses. So if we were to put money in, for example, in our next budget towards this fund, 80% of it would have to be used between projects and programs for art. So that's really in general, the concept there. But also, one of the big responsibilities of the I can't remember his name. Steve Booty. That's right. Steve Booty was an individual that came. It was part of some of our initial stellar discussions. He was, I don't exactly remember why he was in town. He was helping out, but he has done public art programs and master art programs for other communities, and he had come and talked to our community themselves about expanding beyond the downtown and say what type of art, what type of things, what are important for our gateways, our entrances to our communities, and that you would develop, and this would be the Art Commission that would help determine what that would look like, how those pieces would be vetted, how they fit into the city's overall plan. And if a piece were to be, if we got to the point where we're saying, okay, well, there's no longer a need for this piece, then this organization would also be the ones responsible for figuring out how do we get rid of it, which there's this very fancy term for that.
De-accessorizing.
Yes. De-accessioning. De-accessioning. So it really puts the onus on the commission and not on this body. But I think it also puts the onus, the responsibility on those who have the expertise in this area, and not perhaps on. I certainly do not know anything about this type of thing, so I'd really have the experts and their opinion too. And really, it's like any board. This is here to advise the mayor on what should or should not be done with art in our community. One thing in here, I specifically, intentionally did not say, here's their specific role and responsibility for the engagement center. But you'll see that there is a bullet in here to take such other actions as the mayor or common council may direct from time to time. Okay. I think if we were to say, well, this is your show and you need to run with it, and we establish the commission, I think we need to kind of guide them into that process whenever the commission is, if we do this and the commission is established. There needs to be a transitioning time if our intent is to give them greater responsibilities in that regard. So, that's the long summary.
I read it, and thank you, Cameron, for putting together this ordinance. I think it's excellent, and I think you covered most of the bases that I could even think of. One question I would have, Phyllis, would be, would this need, or maybe Tim, would this need to be its own separate entity, being in a 501c3, or can we run it through the city and just basically have a fund for that? That would be the only question I would wonder. For grants and these kind of things, can we just accept those as a city?
I don't think so. Didn't it have to be kind of like a redevelopment commission?
Are they their own separate entity?
They're not,
No,
no.
the redevelopment is a department
It's
of the city.
Right. So this falls under the purview or the umbrella of the city itself.
Okay.
So
That's the only question I had, and I really appreciate the
That's a good
time and effort
question,
you put
though.
into that. Do you know, Cam, are they separate from the city of Fort Wayne or whoever you talk to on that? Do you know?
They are, I believe that they utilize the other organizations that are there, like Arts United, etc.
Okay.
We have North Adams Arts Council, which is a 501c3.
Okay.
So that would be the perfect opportunity to come alongside and work with those other organizations, which hopefully they're one of the representatives on the commission themselves.
Okay.
So
That was my only question on the fiscal responsibility.
And I think that we would want to, Cam, also make note so that when those from the North Adams Arts Council, Sculpture Tour, what's the other one, Melissa?
Decatur
Cultural Connection. When they read this in the paper, that they're not threatened by the fact that we're trying to take anything away from them. We're not. We're actually trying to enhance what they're doing, and
absolutely.
yes.
Yeah, this won't impact, because obviously the Sculpture Tour is in a public space, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no desire to control that whatsoever. There's no vetting of their program. But from time to time, there are pieces within that. Those are temporary spaces, and that's the other thing we need to make sure that we have what considers public, what is constitutes public art, something that is designed to be on permanent display within our community, not temporary, part of the tour. But if one of those pieces then becomes into the inventory, and this also especially establishes that we do have a responsibility to insure it, which we have been doing. But it becomes now the city's property and the city's responsibility, and something that Greg Mendez brought up that I didn't even know. These bronze pieces, they have to be cared for. Mm-hmm. They have to have, I don't know what the actual
finished.
Yeah, or sealer or
Sealer. Treatment.
And so, there's nothing in place for that right now. We all of a sudden we own them. We have the responsibility we're insuring them, but what are we doing to care for them? That's where the Arts Commission can step forward, and this is part of their master plan.
Just like last year, Anthony Lane there on Freeman Square had to be taken apart and redone,
Refurbished.
I apologize, I gotta step out real quick.
Okay, go ahead. Well, while he takes a call, any discussion here?
I
have any questions.
did have one question, but Cam would need to respond to it, and that is in membership consideration for Decatur Main Street having a place on this would be my question, because of their responsibilities for the downtown area.
Well, it's kind of like, I understand that. Just wait till he comes back in. Yeah, Melissa, Tim sent this out, and when he sent it out, he sent it to me and Cam and Phyllis and Melissa, and Melissa had some questions, and I think some of them he kind of answered, because we really don't know exactly what all the responsibilities will be. Those are going to have to be established, but like some of the things she said, would the first floor of the Creative Engagement Center utilities be paid by this group? Would the insurance for the permanent sculptures that the city owns, the insurance, city's paying it right now, would the Arts Commission pay for that once they get established? It's just a question. List of tasks that we have ready for the Arts Commission to get moving on, which that's what Cam touched on that. How much should council expect to contribute to the commission yearly in our annual budget? The last question she had was our person we hired, Brielle. Would she be paid from the Arts Commission, or would she be paid from the city? Would she still report to the mayor? Would she report to the Arts Commission? And then in addition to that, Phyllis and Tim corresponded, and they wanted to check with the State Board of Accounts to see if commission members would need to be bonded, since the redevelopment commission members are all required to be bonded. So Phyllis was looking into that. So there's some questions that we have, and
I think, well, I don't know, I don't want to speak for Cam, but in talking with him, all those first questions you have, I think in time, yes, that's what this commission
In a
wants to
perfect
do.
world, they would take all
At
that
first,
responsibility.
no, because they don't have any money.
They don't have, I think there's going to be a transition.
But yeah,
Kind of like
that's,
the redevelopment borrowed money from the city.
Yeah.
They eventually
Get started.
Within 2 or 3 years, though, it would be kind of on that group.
their goal would be to fund themselves in grants and so forth to ultimately.
And there could be individuals who are willing to make gifts towards that because they feel very passionate about promoting public art within the community. So there are different ways that money could ultimately get to them because it's and so you understand, unlike the Redevelopment Commission, there's a specific statute that authorizes the creation of the Redevelopment Commission. Okay, so, and it says what the commission must do. It requires the commission members be bonded. There is no enabling statute in the code. So we're relying upon home rule, the home rule statute to create this entity. So it's a creature of the council, and the council can terminate it at some later point if it found a need to do so. So there's nothing in the home rule statute that requires the bonding, but traditionally it's my understanding that if you're going to have individuals that are handling funds, they're to be bonded. So I think that's the answer we're probably going to receive from State Board of Accounts, but I told Phyllis, let's at least confirm that before we incur that expense. There's no need to incur it if we don't need to.
Sure.
I think the composition of the board, the responsibilities, the goals are all things that, because this is under home rule, you establish as a council. And that's why it's spelled out in the ordinance. I give Cam a lot of credit because he was looking at a lot of different sources and he kind of tried to pull together a lot of information from different sources. And when he got this to me, then what I did is I kind of put it in the format that would fit easily into our code of ordinances. So, and I appreciate the effort that Kim made because it took a lot of work on his part.
Cam, I did have one question with membership. Consideration of Decatur Main Street having a representative. They are an entity that has some responsibility for advising the downtown area.
Yep.
That's the purpose of my question.
Oh, that makes sense. I don't know if they were...
Yeah, I looked through, North Adams Arts Council makes sense. Decatur Sculpture Tour makes sense. Cultural Connection makes sense. Park and Rec makes sense because, we house art in our parks, like Riverside Park over here. Redevelopment Commission would make sense because they may be an entity that would help support this. Main Street, they have a vested interest in the downtown, a certain corridor of the city, so I think it makes sense, personally. I guess instead of having two representatives who are practicing artists or design professionals appointed by other members of the commission, maybe the commission would only pick one instead of two, and we add Main Street to that. So these are the questions I want us all to kind of ponder, take 2 weeks. We'll come back, revisit this. Hopefully, if you have questions, we can talk about them in the next 2 weeks. Let's get them out in the open and talk about them. Then when we come back in 2 weeks, maybe we'll be prepared to at least do 2 readings, if not all 3.
Well, but if you're going to come back in 2 weeks and talk about it, I'm not going to be able to have this ready for 2 readings on that meeting. So, either, we need to try to get this put together and in place as quickly as we can because we want this entity to get organized because, especially if you're looking down the road to get them more directly involved down in the Creative Engagement Center, that's coming up sooner than we realize.
Can we make a recommendation that we will continue down this path? Can we do any readings on it with change, or does it have to be finalized?
You can do it, but then you're going to, on your third and final reading, you would adopt it based upon amendments, and I would rather have a clean ordinance than doing it that way.
I would agree with that. I know we want to do it sooner than later, but I don't want to necessarily rush it through either.
Well, and you may have individuals from the public coming to your next meeting to provide input as well.
Why don't we maybe do this? Myself or Mayor, it might be better if he's coming from you, I don't know, but you need to talk to those entities specifically, Arts Council, Sculpture Tour, Cultural Connection, to see do they even want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Because if one of those organizations does not, then we can throw Main Street in its place. If they all say, no, we absolutely need to be a part of this, then we could look at changing
2 to 1.
delta or deeds from 1 to 2, putting Main Street up.
Or even going with 2 to 3, if you felt, that could be another option, if you're trying to keep that total number odd.
And have an 11-member board.
You don't want to get it, I'm sorry, you don't want to get it too large because you always want to be able to have a quorum to make decisions. Now, in other things we've discussed, you have, you could either have a board, and then you could have an advisory, and those could be filled in with other...
You could also have non-voting members.
Non-voting members.
Which is what it does allow that provision, right?
Okay.
It's, I think, set up for that, isn't it?
Yeah, it says that right in there.
It says
additional members.
I thought I read that.
But I agree with you. I think 9 to me is kind of a lot. I would have probably preferred 7, but we have all these groups and you want to make sure they're included, and now you're up to 9.
Well, that would be you're right. Why don't you you set that, or
We can do that.
check that out, and then...
And what I would suggest maybe even is to send a copy of this
Of the
to each of these organizations
To preview.
so that they understand what's in here, and if they may have comments, they may have suggestions.
But I really do think Decatur Main Street has a place here, a position here.
And to me, approaching each of these organizations to inquire whether they want to be involved in this, I think is very important. I think we owe it to them. And it's kind of like when I talk to people that are coming in for estate planning and they're going to appoint people to serve as an executor or a power of attorney. You want to make sure they're willing to do it before you appoint them.
If you talk to your...
Jeremy, do you think that the park board would, that someone would be willing to step forward to be on this from the park board? Okay. And redevelopment, I think someone would from there. Okay. So what you're saying, Tim, is we need to get everything back to you as soon as possible so that...
Well, I don't know, I mean, you're going to have a lot of comments potentially, and I don't know how I incorporate that until you guys all agree that that's what you want in.
So 2 weeks from tonight, we can't even...
What I would suggest you do is contact the organizations, you guys think through this, put together, come prepared. If there's any comments, concerns, questions that you want to address, that's the time to do it. That way I know what to put in it so that I can have it ready for the second meeting in July. If you want to adopt it on all 3 readings at that point to get it moving, then you would have the ability to do that.
I think that sounds reasonable.
And invite anybody that has any...
Yeah, I would encourage anybody that has.
Do we want to have a public hearing on it at the next meeting or not?
You
Or
could,
just ask people to come and discuss?
I think anybody that you're talking about here, I mean, hopefully it's going to be covered in, the radio and the papers. We can maybe put something on the web page, saying this is going to be discussed at the next meeting. If you want to have input in this, please come.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
What, should the ordinance itself maybe be like put on our web page and we promote that it's on our web page if anyone wants to look at it?
So we think we have 9 people that'll want to be on this.
I'm sorry?
We think we'll have 9 people from these different factions. The only reason I bring that up is you had in there city residents. There's a lot of people that love Decatur and care about art but may live just outside of the city of Decatur. I'll pick on Mrs. Torson.
Well, it's not, I think Cam included, they could be a resident, but they could own a business, so it's not limited to just residents.
Where was that in here, Cam?
But we can certainly expand that if you wish.
Doesn't necessarily mean that if they're on that, one of those entities, that they have to be a resident of Decatur, correct?
Right, well, that it does. Then
It's in here somewhere.
It says historical, too. Is there somebody on there? I didn't notice. Is there somebody from the Historical
There it
Society?
is, yeah, it's in the
It's in the
bottom of the second page under
Right.
membership and terms.
second sentence. It says, all commissioners shall reside or own a business or property within the city at the time of appointment and throughout the term of office.
So that would take someone like you just mentioned who
Connie
does
Mayer.
not own it, yeah, but I mean, you take a, she could be on, yeah, okay.
Business.
She doesn't own a business.
She doesn't own a business, and she doesn't live in the city, but yet she's part of
She's
the,
the head of the sculpture tour.
so could she be part of it?
Jean Broom, does she? Well, I guess
live
they
in
do live
town.
in the city. I'm just saying we may want to make that a little bit just to attract
shall to
potentially
should.
someone.
What's that?
Shall to should.
What's that?
Shall, changing shall to should would open that door.
There you go.
But if they're serving on one of those groups,
That's what I'm saying.
and then
It says they-
Because what you're really saying is you're leaving it up to the group to designate its representative,
Who
so
may not live in the city limits.
So
They
it's
live
Curtis
in rural.
Rose, very involved, he lives in the county.
that's why I say, I mean, these are things that I think I'd like you to take a look at, and then we can try to fine tune it before we get to a point of final adoption.
I would, to your question about do you post it, I don't think you do. I mean, I think it's our responsibility to talk to those groups, but ultimately it's us that need
Right.
to do this.
Very good.
I
We
think,
want input, but ultimately it's our responsibility.
yeah.
So,
that you mention it. We want to include those groups. That's the whole purpose of this.
I think the toughest one will be the cultural connection, because they have such a small group, very small group. Yeah, so, yeah. Although I know someone from that committee that maybe could serve on it.
I'll echo thank you, Cam, for diving.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well done.
Yeah.
This is top notch, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. The only other thing I have tonight is an announcement, and it's in reference to Hannah Nutman, and I'm going to read this so I don't mess it up. The City of Decatur would like to invite the entire Decatur community to the official groundbreaking of the new Rev Sports Complex at Hannah Nutman Park, as well as one last photo opportunity at Hannah Nutman Park ball fields before construction begins. Boy, that didn't sound right. We're going to have a groundbreaking ceremony at 7 p.m. on Monday, July 8th at Hannah Nutman Park on one of the remaining fields at the east end of the park that hasn't been demoed yet. The entire Decatur community is not only invited but encouraged to attend this event. A community photo will be taken immediately following the groundbreaking ceremony to commemorate all of those that have played at the park or coached at the park in the last 50 years. This is a great opportunity for the community to come together and celebrate their time at the old Hannah Nutman ball fields and to say goodbye for one last time to the old Hannah Nutman Park. Our hope is that as many as possible current baseball and softball players from Decatur boys baseball and Decatur girls softball, as well as any former players or coaches from the last 50 years of playing at the facility, will attend this memorable event. Let's face it, look at all the lives that have been touched and the memories that have been created in the past 50 years at that park. We're closing the book on a piece of history and opening a new piece of the future. And in doing so, the old and the new will become one and the same. All who attend the event will receive a ticket when they arrive for a chance to win one of 5 brick pavers with your personalized message that will be placed at the new Rev Sports Complex at Hannah Nutman Park. We're going to give away 4 of the 4-inch by 8-inch pavers and 1 8-inch by 8-inch paver, which would be the grand prize, the 8-inch by 8-inch paver, and it'll be given away through a random drawing of the people present that get a ticket. Representatives from the major contributing donors to the city's capital campaign, as well as the city administration, Greater Decatur Committee, Decatur Parks Board, Decatur Baseball Association, and Decatur Girls Softball will take part in the initial groundbreaking ceremony. For more information about the event, please feel free to contact me here at City Hall, 724-7171, or email me at kmeyer@decaturin.org. So that's a pretty cool thing. I'm sorry?
What time?
7 p.m. will be the actual groundbreaking. Of course, I want all the council members, if you can get your calendars marked, and everyone from the city administration, department heads, all of you try to be present if you can that evening.
It's John Schultz's 70th birthday.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
7 p.m.
The ball games should be all over with by then, unless we have another set of monsoons that hit us and they're still going on. But all the softball games and baseball games should be done by then. And I'd like to get a great crowd up there. Actually, we've got a drone lined up to take a picture of the masses if we can get enough people. And we may have to have the police out there to help direct some traffic because there's only so much parking out there, but we'll find places for everyone. And like I said, this is, that park has touched so many lives over the last 50 years. Whether you played men's slow pitch softball or whether you coached a little league team or played little league, like we had on the Facebook post at Rube Wynn Field 50 years ago, Mike Strickler hit the very first home run out of Rube Wynn Field. And he still has the baseball And we have his picture with that baseball with his two little grandsons. I mean, we're passing this off generation to generation. So all of those who played at that park over the years, you know, I would encourage them to come out and be part of one last night of the old Hannah Nutman and be part of the new groundbreaking for the new Rev Sports Complex at Hannah Nutman Park. So, any questions from anyone? Jeremy, you want to throw anything in here?
Through the whole fundraising capital campaign, there was a lot of different pictures that were distributed. Jack Macklin was very involved in a lot of the pictures, and as you go through there, you see a picture of Al Fleming from 50 years ago. Al Fleming and Callie Oast. They were very instrumental in doing the workout on that property. Talking with Al the last few weeks, Al had spent about 3 weeks out there doing a lot of the dirt work with equipment from 50 years ago. So you can imagine the involvement that a lot of local businesses had in developing that park. It's really ironic that now starting on the 8th of May, Greg Fleming, Al's son, will be out there doing the dirt work 50
July,
years later.
8th of July.
3rd July, sorry. Doing the dirt work 50 years later.
That's cool.
Al really reminisced about a lot of the things that went on the last, 50 years ago throughout that project. So that's really exciting. Greg's really excited about the project. I met with him several times the last 2 or 3 weeks, just talking about different aspects of it. To be real honest with you, Greg didn't know Al was involved in it 50 years ago until I forwarded those pictures on to him. So he's very excited. If all goes well, they will be working there that first day. That
Monday the 8th.
Ground.
Will those fields that I referred to on the east end, will those be destroyed by then?
There we go.
Okay, so we'll just have to we'll not meet on one of the fields, we'll just meet
So,
somewhere.
If all goes well, within 3 to 4 weeks, Greg will be completed, and then we can move on to the next phases of the project. So, hopefully, everything lines up. The numbers look good so far, so.
Jeremy and Don have been working every day with their thinking caps on and ways of making this all come together, and how to save a nickel here and keep us all within budget. So everyone knock on wood, cross your fingers, and here we go.
We're hoping May of 2020, we
Playing ball.
have the first pitch and
Yep.
out there playing.
Yep,
And with that, there's still time to give to the project.
absolutely. Yep, the official capital campaign will end on July 31st. Now, of course, we'll probably take any donations after that still, but that's the official closing to the capital campaign. And Melissa, if you would maybe jump in, let's get your report first. I think you wanted to kind of touch on patronicity again.
Yes, our patronicity program for the Hannah Nutman Park project, the first day is tomorrow. This is a Creating Places program through the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority. For every dollar that's donated, your dollar will get matched with $1. And if we raise $50,000 locally, the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority will match us with $50,000. We have through mid-August to do this, but we hope it doesn't take that long. So again, that will start tomorrow. You can give online. There'll be a link that will go live at 9 o'clock in the morning, or you're welcome to donate by check as well, and we will accept those at City Hall.
If you do it online on the patronicity page, you pay a fee, correct?
We'll pay a credit card fee.
Credit card fee. If you bring the check into City Hall, there's no fee. And I just want to challenge Decatur. You stepped up big time when we did this for the Madison Street Plaza. Let's do it again. Let's raise this 50,000 and exceed it. Let's raise 100 and get 50,000 free. So, you have anything else this evening? Okay. Mr. Carbach, anything? I'm going in reverse order tonight. Jeremy, got anything else?
Street paving and community crossings will hopefully start within 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. Prior to this meeting, I did receive a call from one of the contractors wanting to get together sometime toward the end of this week to get our plan together. for the most part, everything's progressing along. You know, obviously, we're working towards Hannah Nutman, and just doing a lot of just miscellaneous jobs here and there. So everything's going well, though.
Good. Gary?
Our reading and permit currently is planned. That's underway, and I've been visiting Decatur Industries, handing out information about keeping mercury out of the wastewater plant.
There you go. Thank you. Don?
CSO 11 should be cleaned by the end of the week. We've got, right now, as of the end of May, we've done 10,234 foot of cleaning, 8,000 feet of videotape, replaced 2 manholes, 60 foot of main at the end of Jefferson on 10th Street, and have done 60 feet of 8-inch main at Adams Street. We will be starting the alley replacement here in the next week.
That would be between 10th and 11th?
10th and 11th.
Yes, sir.
600 feet of 8-inch being replaced there. So we're probably going to be sending our back truck back at the end of this month. Focus on the repairs. I've got some other things to do up there and so.
Appreciate it. The camera's been coming in real handy, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's amazing what a handful of water leaks we found were saved us a lot of money there too.
Mhm.
They weren't little leaks.
Mm-hmm.
It's working out really well.
Good. Kurt?
Good.
Les?
Just a reminder, the fireworks stands are cropping up around town, and the city has adopted the Indiana state statute. That starts, the official time that you can fire off consumer fireworks starts on the 29th and goes through July 9th. It's goes 5 p.m. to 2 hours after sunset. The only extended day is July 4th, from 10 a.m. to midnight. But you know, we do have an ordinance, and it is the 29th through July 9th. So I can give the press a copy of it, or it's in our ordinance book. But a lot of fireworks stands around, and
Yep.
just
Already starting to hear them.
people start to need to be safe, and we shouldn't have any problems with being too dry. So,
Sure.
but just want to remind people that be cautious with us, and please, the dates, follow the dates and the times. Don't know your neighbor, or Chris will have something to say about it.
Mhm. Chief Corral's on vacation and sitting in this evening in his first official capacity as Deputy Chief. Is Deputy Chief Chris Bright. Chris, what you got?
Nothing much to report. Elwell's worked out nice. He started Monday. He's catching on good. Very well-rounded, smart military guy. So he's working out very well. Looking forward to Mitchell coming on in the next couple weeks.
You got him working days right now?
He's on site learning our CAD system and geographical area of the streets.
Riding with Kevin, I suppose? Yeah, okay. Jim, you got anything?
Nothing.
Kevin?
Pre-construction meeting today with Coasting and Midwestern Engineers for the new water plant. We're going to start bringing in equipment this week. Once all the permitting goes through, plan on breaking ground. We actually have an official groundbreaking July 9th, the day after the hand up. Groundbreaking at 2 p.m. We'll have a press release come out for that in the next week or so. But yeah, it should start moving dirt here very soon.
Lot going on everywhere. Council members, anything?
I've got one thing to report out with Northeast, the elementary, the Learning Center.
Northwest.
I'm sorry, Northwest. From what the direction we've been going, we see, and we want to bring to council and to you, Ken, tonight, we see the need as far as the city reaching out to the economic Development Committee, that we ultimately believe that we need an MOU agreement of sorts
With economic development.
economic development and the city, so that we can have, clearly have an understanding, the city does own it, okay? What kind of relationship do we need to develop that, we need to, and I think we as a city need to reach out to them as the entity to be the ones that are the active participants.
Proprietor or whatever you want to get called,
So that's what we'd like to talk about tonight, suggest that maybe it be reach out, initially a letter that would start those conversations and that development.
Good point.
Towards a memorandum of understanding.
Yep.
Because there are probably things that may be needed in that facility that we don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? And so you kind of need the experts there to say, okay, here's what would be required of us before they could help get somebody in there, I guess. Whether that's Vincent or whoever.
I know that we need one another in this endeavor. We need economic development, we need the county, we need to make it the most successful. All of those entities need to do it together.
Well, and the cool part is that we would write them some type of a memorandum or at least ask them, then they can take the lead. They'll have a track to run on. That's what we discussed in the steering committee meeting.
That's good. I'll work on a letter. Cam and Craig, you're both board members. You can maybe help me out with this. And we'll get a letter sent to, of course, Larry is an interim director, but nonetheless, we'd send it to him on the city's behalf to distribute to the rest of the board and see if we can't make this happen. I agree. Thank you for. I think Larry's on board with this and talking with Larry, and what Larry said at our last meeting. It sounds like as far as him and the members that were at the meeting, I think they're all in favor of this, making this happen. So, thank you. Yes, Craig.
I just wanted to make an announcement to the media, if you would, please. Thursday night, we have a very good band called The Do, D-O-O. They'll be coming in and to play on the plaza. Hopefully the weather holds out, but if we do have a rain event, we're going to go to the Knights of Columbus. I'll call the radio station, but if you could just put that out there, that we'll have it on. Melissa said she would take care of it on the Facebook site, on the city's Facebook, Chambers Facebook, Main Street's Facebook, and if you guys would help me push that out, we'd really appreciate that. So we'll probably make the call around 5-ish.
This band
so I'll call the radio station.
From Indianapolis, is that correct?
Yes, they are. It's a 8-piece band. It should be a... Seven of them. Yeah, it should really be a cool... Have you checked into them? They'll be very entertaining. They'll be and they'll have a 3-hour show.
Really?
Oh, wow. It'll be fun.
Cool.
I'm just hoping. I'm praying for the good weather. That's all I can
Amen there.
I think it's all good for the community, so... So we thank you for your help, media.
Anything else from council?
Real quick, just want to draw your attention, you probably all got this copy here. There's a nice little article in here about walkability and the value that it adds. Now they're talking about some bigger cities in this, but it speaks to the things that we're trying to do in our community, including 13th Street study about connecting residential with commerce centers, the idea of what they call them dense areas of commerce, connecting available parking to downtowns. So it's all about that, and so I think it just speaks to the initiatives that we are doing, including streetscapes. So it's kind of interesting. Draw your attention. It's my open ears. Tell them to read.
Anything else from council? Tim, you have anything tonight? Kevin?
Don't forget Mayor's Golf Outing coming up.
By golly, you're right there.
Next Friday the 28th. 28 teams right now.
We have 28 teams for the Mayor's Golf Outing currently, and we can still squeeze in a few more if anybody is interested.
Anybody's willing to sponsor a hole, or
and if any,
team will still take it.
yeah, exactly. We've got a good group of sponsors. We're going to have a perfect weather, we hope, and we're going to have good food, good appetizers, and a lot of fun. Ken, do you have anything?
I do. I was going to suggest that Sherluka and I get out there and we could have an old-timers game.
Are you talking about, are you
coaching?
Coaching, okay.
Coaching and...
Wait, I coached. Huh? The three of us.
That one daughter's played 9 years. She might be too well. You know I said that.
I will.
Did you guys see that bite on TV earlier this week where one of the professionals was going to putt, and he lined up to putt, and just as he was ready to putt, a squirrel ran out on the green and hit the ball and knocked it about 10 feet.
Didn't see that.
No. Oh, my word.
Phyllis, you have anything?
About the opening bid on Thursday,
It's this Thursday?
the 27th.
Okay, the opening of the bids for the streetscaping, correct? Correct? Is that what you're talking about? No?
Lofts.
For the lofts, thank you. Yeah, okay. Is that this Thursday already? We just had the
The 27th.
27th? So that's a week from Thursday. A week from Thursday, we will open the bids for the first floor of the loft apartment buildings. We had our pre-bid meeting last week. We had 3 commercial contractors attend it, and Corey Clark from MKM said that 3 were there. There could be more than that would email him and get specs. So we'll see how it comes out. Hopefully we get a good competitive bid. So
What time is that?
2 o'clock.
2 p.m., the 27th.
You better write that down.
Yeah. Anything else for the good of the order?
I'd move that we pay the claims.
I'll second. Have a motion and a second that we pay the claims. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
And a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.